not vetted, not challenged, and now he's president.
Now, tonight we introduce a segment called Media Mash, in which we will be calling attention to the liberal agenda that the mainstream media is trying to pass along to you as objective news. And joining us now to chime in is Tim Graham. He is the Director of Media Analysis for the Media Research Center. Tim, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
All right, Research Center. Tim, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
All right, now first up, inaugural headlines. Now, for comparison's sake, I took a look back at how the newspapers heralded George W. Bush's first days in office 8 years ago and juxtaposed them to their headlines over the past few days. Now, the New York Times, January 21st, 2001, headline reads, "Inauguration keeps Cheney from his first Senate duties." Another one says that Gore takes a last bow with grace and relief. But then on January 22nd, 2009, the page one headline reads, "Obama sets a new tone." Well, let's go to the Washington Post, January 21st, 2001. Headline is, quote, "Mixed signals transmitted on Bush's big day." Now compare that to Tuesday's front page headline, "Obama's moment arrives. Historians say he has a chance to redefine the presidency." Finally, the LA Times on January 23rd, 2001, the paper tartly announced, quote, "President's actions on first workday eclipses effort to focus on education." But we go to 2009. That edition, that headline reads, "President Obama swiftly sets a course on day one." Tim, could it be any more obvious?
No. I think this is one of those cases where you can see the emotional investment here. When you have headlines like, "Historians say it could be an all-time great," you know, I mean, it's that idea of, we really think he's going to be terrific, and we want you to think so, too.
It is pretty amazing. It's obvious. It's transparent. They're even caught up in, we even have anchors crying, Tim, saying, "Oh, this is just the moment." Tingly feelings running up their legs, which you have well chronicled over at Media Research.
Well, absolutely, and I think it's important to note that we expect these anchormans to be objective, and if they were inspired at every inauguration, that would be nice, but they aren't. They're inspired and excited for Democratic inaugurations, and the Republicans, you know, they're looking for those little things to nitpick, like you noticed in the headlines.
All right, Tim, stay right there. Next up, White House press stable Helen Thomas, who had this to say in an interview with Canadian television. Let's take a look.
I'm a liberal. I was born a liberal. I'll be one till I die. But what else should a reporter be when you see so much and we have such great privilege and access to the truth?
But you know, it's interesting because I'm sure that if somebody from the right was sitting here, they would say, if you asked the question, what else should a reporter be, they would say, "Oh, I don't know, how about objective?"
You're not asking people not to think, not to care, are you? But you are asking them to give a fair reporting, both sides and so forth.
Are we going to be the first to call her biased? I mean, she admits it here, which, by the way, I'm thankful for, finally, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, we've been attacking her as a biased reporter since the Reagan years. I mean, the idea that nobody knew she was a liberal until now is sort of odd. But it's really funny the way that they're trying to suggest that, well, anybody who's been exposed to society and to truth is naturally a liberal. So on some level, they're saying you can't really complain that we're biased, and conservatives live in some sort of candy land.
That's a good point. Now, the morning shows have never been a bastion of political objectivity, but it doesn't seem to matter that their candidate won the White House. Hasn't done anything to diminish the Democratic slant. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's look at some of their coverage of the inauguration.
This morning, a new dawn. Barack Obama, sworn in as the 44th President of the United States. A new face from a new generation, driven by an audacity to hope.
They said this day would never come.
It has. It's here.
You've made it cool to be smart, and someone once said that humans will do anything to avoid thinking.
All this time, I've been alive, I've been having white presidents, and I think now this is my chance to have a black president.
So it was that as many as 2 million pilgrims made their way to Washington and the Mall to witness this most sacred event.
Can national pride make a freezing day feel warmer?
From above, even the seagulls must have been awed by the blanket of humanity.
Tim, the seagulls were awed. That's bias. That doesn't sound like objectivity. Huh?
Yeah, it's not just bias. It sounds sort of like we're living in North Korea. Don't you get that whole echo of the glorious leader? He's so fantastic that the seagulls bow before him.
All right, I can't top that. All right. Now the news anchors greeting Obama with open arms. They aren't confined to the morning shows. In fact, Tom Brokaw and Colin Powell shared a moment on the Morning Joe. Roll the tape.
I get very emotional. It's been hard for me to walk through the streets.
Yeah.
And I think that the day is going to be very emotional. I think that's good for the country. It's a reminder, again, of who we are.
There's nothing wrong with crying about this country.
I've been crying left and right for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And walking on the streets of Washington today, coming over here, with people waving at you and stopping, there's a smile on everybody's face. Everybody's been reset.
Why, Tim, do I not remember this when Reagan became president or George W. Bush became president? Seems a little different.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because they sort of assume that everybody they meet is happy and got a skip in their step. There's absolutely nobody who, in the 46% who voted for McCain and Palin, once again, they don't know anybody who did that.
57 million Americans would have preferred somebody else win. But, Tim, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it, and we're going to keep our eye on the media.